What the fuck is Aperture?
Welcome to What Is This?
Now, this is one of those questions that I think gets way overcomplicated by way too many photographers, and it is a relatively simple thing that's going to help you immensely in your photography journey, especially early on. This is going to go for video and photo. They both correlate exactly the same. There's a little more nuance in the video side, but we ain't going to worry about that shit right now. How it rolls is a base of numbers that go from 1.2 up to 22. I think 24 is some on the higher end. It's something that helps you create a conversation with your photos. And a lot of people are most interested in that like blurry background. Now, Aperture is in full control of that. There's nothing else in photography that creates this ethereal element, the portraits, the landscapes, the car photos that are so blurry in the background. It all comes down to Aperture. I like to think about this in the same way that our eyeballs work, because essentially these things are just replicating our eyes, but locking them in at certain places that we can't lock them in during the day. Now, what I mean by how your eye sees is that when you're out during the day in full daylight, what do your pupils do? They contract. They get into these really tiny holes that allows you to see everything very sharply. So this is at a higher aperture. This is at about f/18 right now. And so behind me, you're gonna see a lot more in focus. You'll see her in focus as well as the entire background. And now we're gonna switch over to a lower aperture in the daylight, and that's gonna allow you to have the background a little more blown out so you're focusing just on one thing instead of the entire scenery. And now this is shot at f/1.8, so this has got a very different feel to it. It's that same thing where it's wide open now. It's trying to take in as much light, which is very confusing for the lens, like it is when we are walking around at night. We can only see one thing at a time. So now you can just see me while the background's all blown out right now. But all you gotta think about is how closed your pupils are. Is the higher your aperture is the sharper the photo is. Now, when you're thinking about creating a sharp image, that doesn't mean that a higher f-stop is going to only mean that the image is going to be sharp. Depending on your lens, your focal length, and how far away you are from a certain subject that you're working with, you can still get a very sharp, full image. Essentially, if you have a lower aperture and you're focusing off into infinity, way off at the mountain peak, essentially the whole area is going to be in focus because that separation from foreground to background is essentially going to be eliminated. But as you get closer and you're trying to still create a very sharp image, you are going to want to bring up your aperture because that's going to help bring a little more detail into your image. Landscapes can be taken in a myriad of different apertures. If you use whole numbers, you're going to have sharp landscape photos. That means everything's going to be in focus. When I point this, you're going to kind of see that that hole is relatively small. You know, it's not the smallest ever, but it's contracted. Now you can use that at a closer distance to create a really sharp photo up close. So on this, that you'll see this is much wider. You know, you can see that hole in there it's dilated. Now those lower numbers, depending on the lens, will allow you to have that really beautiful portrait look, you know. These are the photos that I'm going to ignore whatever that ghost was for now. So those lower numbers are going to allow you to take portraits with certain lenses. You know, when you're looking at those numbers at 1.8, 2.2, 3.5, a lot of kit lenses start at the 3.5 range. Those are going to allow you to take portrait photos. That's where you're going to get those blurry backgrounds because your eyes, like your lens, is trying to soak up as much as it can. But the more it has to soak in, the less it can see around you, like you're at night. Thankfully, with cameras, we can control that pupil dilation and take photos with that dilation in full sunlight. There's other things that compensate that. On future videos, I will explain to you. As it goes, when you're using, say, a 50mm lens, a 35, an 85, those are all prime lenses. Those all have lower apertures starting at that 1.8 range, dropping down to 1.2. And it's crazy though, that 8 to 2, you're talking thousands of dollars difference. So when you're starting out, just look at the 1.8s. Don't even bother with 1.2. Don't get it until you know why you need it. That's all I have to say. 1.8 is essentially a kit style lens that's going to allow you that really cool blurry background. It's going to blow out those foregrounds on those landscape photos when you want the leaves to just kind of be an accent piece, a conversation in the photo, but not like a focusing element. Just something to kind of hug a mountain or hug a tree that you're trying to get people to like focus on. You're using your compositional skills. You're choosing to have that leaf out of focus. You're deciding what's in focus and what's not. So the lower those numbers go, the more you're deciding how much of that photo from front to back is going to be in focus. The key principle here is that you have to give yourself the chance to understand this aperture thing. Because if you're going to have full creative control of your photos, this is stage one of unlocking your creativity, utilizing manual exposure on your camera. So hopefully this was helpful. I appreciate you sticking around until the end. Next time, we're going to be going over shutter speed and ISO. This is called the exposure triangle. If you found this somewhat helpful or you liked how I look, hit subscribe if you guys are interested. Otherwise, leave me a comment if there's anything that didn't make sense, something that helped click for you, anything. Say hi. You know, I'm just some guy. I'm just making YouTube videos like anybody else. And you don't really know it, but I'm in my boxers right now because it's 1 in the morning. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of the day. Happy shooting and good night. And I don't know what to do when I exit a video. So love you. Bye.